A seasoned engineer discovers the note business, and the rest is history. Stay tuned. Welcome to this week's edition of NoteSchool TV, episode 257. Wow. We are going to celebrate our 5-year anniversary here in a couple of weeks, and we are very excited about that. We're going to figure out a really, really cool episode to do, so stay tuned for that. We're going to have a great guest today. So look, just if you want to know more about what we do at NoteSchool, simply go to noteschool.com/TV. Again, noteschool.com/TV. And with that, Eddie is not going to be with us today, so he'll be back next week. So I want to bring on our guest. Our guest today is a very dear friend of mine. He, like I said, he was an engineer, still is an engineer, right? He just uses those skills in the note space. And he actually works with us as well now. So let's welcome Mr. Wayne Garrett.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Hey, man, we do this a lot, don't we?
We do. We do. It's a fun time.
It's a fun time. Well, welcome and thank you so much for just being on today and for sharing your story with all of our viewers out there. And like I said, you know, in the opening, I can't believe it'll be 5 years, October the 3rd, I believe. So that's a lot. We've done this every week for 5 years, never missed a week. So anyway.
And that's what it takes, right? To be successful in this space, you have to do that.
So Wayne, you have a great story and we're going to share it today. So let's kind of start out and just kind of tell the audience, what were you doing before NoteSchool? You know, work, financially, whatever. What were you doing?
Well, before NoteSchool, I was even before. I'll go a couple of steps further. I'd spent 30 years of my life as an engineer, like you had led up to. Spent the first part of my career in the automotive industry, and then transitioned into aerospace. Got moved to Fort Worth, Texas, from Indianapolis. During that point of my career, met my wife in Texas, just kind of had a life. And I was doing the W-2 thing, Joe. And we were just cranking along, doing the W-2 thing. We get to a spot where we had a major life event that happened. And that was my wife, who is a nurse, had been with the same hospital system for 25, 30 years of her life.
Yeah.
Ever since she was in college. She did her internship there. They hired her, so she had been there forever.
Wow.
And she was very disciplined with her 401k, much more than I. Sometimes, as we know, Joe, guys tend to be a little more reckless with their savings than the ladies. So it's a thing. She had been methodical with hers because someone told her when she was in high school, if you save X amount of dollars over 30 years, 40 years, you're going to be a millionaire. And when we really started looking at our 401ks and trying to figure out what was next after she got laid off, that wasn't what reality painted. It was a completely different story. So we decided we need to rethink this. We need to do something different. So we looked toward real estate. It's something I think it's very common. A lot of people do. But we went down the normal channels. Do we want to maybe do a fix and flip? Everybody talks about that. We've watched HGTV. That looks pretty easy. Let's look at that. Ooh, what about rental properties? Lots of people do rental properties. That's supposed to be a good way to get cash flow. And the problem, Joe, was I've got this engineer brain and I look at Excel sheets. And when I started looking at the rental properties in the market that we're in, I'm in Dallas, Fort Worth, I couldn't make the numbers make sense. And I'm thinking, what am I doing wrong? Because I'm looking at all these different, but I was taking into consideration things, Joe, like maintenance, like real maintenance. What's it cost to keep a house running? Because a lot of people don't look at that.
What is it? What are the true costs of being a landlord? Yeah. Which everybody should do, by the way.
Yes. And when I started looking at that, it seemed like a lot of work for very little cash flow at the end of the day.
So Wayne, what was your biggest pain, your biggest frustration that you were facing with those types of things? Just probably pretty much just what you just said, right?
Well, yeah, it was all the effort that you're putting in, all the risk that you're taking for very little reward.
Yeah.
It's a lot to overcome. And when you're a newbie coming into the real estate market, you feel like you're going up to a pond and there's already 100 people standing around that pond with their fishing poles in the water. And you're just another one, you're number 101. I thought there had to be something else. There had to be a different way. And I'm a niche guy. I've come to find out in my life that I like to find the niches of industries
And
and
you're an
get into
early
a niche.
adapter as well. I've come to know
Yeah.
that about you over the past few years, and you embrace that early mentality there, which is a good thing.
Yes.
Because most people just sit around and hope against hope, like you said a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
So you were going through this part, and we know that Darla, your wife, bad things happen to good people, and it's just
Yeah.
part of life. It happens, to all of us, and I think a lot of our listeners can relate to that because we all have something.
Oh, yeah.
So what made you really want to make that change from what you were doing? I mean, you were a very successful engineer, and you then decided, hey, I've got to try something different. What precipitated that change other than like Darla and the job loss and those types of things?
Well, it was something that was in me for a very long time. Have you ever seen the movie Office Space?
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't watched that movie, it's a classic movie from the 90s,
Yep.
but that really spoke to me. It made me think, what am I doing spending my years in a cubicle? But I never could find a way out of the rat race. And that's the hardest thing to do when you're locked into the rat race and you've got bills and you need that income. It's the hardest thing to do to get out of that rat race. And Darla and I worked very hard once she lost her job to reconfigure all of our finances so that we could just live off one income, and that would be her income. And I would be the adventurer that would go out and try a new path and work on our future. So the way we set it up was she finances our day-to-day operations while I can focus on building our future income so that I can retire her.
So the story had a happy ending. Yes, she lost her job, but she ends up with something much better, right? A higher position.
Yes, she does. Yep.
Yeah, same company, I think, same hospital group.
Completely different hospital
No,
group.
okay,
She's
okay,
she's
yeah.
she's gone through 2 hospital groups, and now she has realized that there's no such thing as loyalty. There used to be this perception of loyalty with companies and even hospital groups, and that really just doesn't exist in our modern day and age.
Yeah,
And so she's given that up. She's like, "All right, I'm a gun for hire.
that's it.
I'm going to work for a hospital system. I'm going to give them my best, and if the time comes for me to push on someplace else, and that's what I'll do."
And Wayne, it's cool that you guys had that relationship. And I know you guys, right? Have
Mhm.
that relationship. And she says, Wayne, you go out. I'm going to do what we need to do right now, right? To keep
Yeah.
everything going. And you go out and you build the future. And that's a really neat thing. So how did you discover Note School? How'd you hear about Note School?
Well, it's these type of things pay off, Joe. The YouTube videos, the NoteSchool TV. It
Mhm.
was seeing Eddie on a YouTube video and hearing him talk about notes. And it really kind of got me thinking, there's such a thing. You can actually invest in mortgages, because I had no idea that that was even something that you could do. It's not an aspect of real estate that is commonly taught. When you go to a lot of these real estate trainings, what do they focus on? Rental properties, fix and flips,
Wholesaling, yeah,
wholesaling, that's a big one. But
rentals.
yeah, that's what they focus on. It's not note investing. And Eddie was specifically note investing. And when I looked at that, that made sense. It's like, well, wait a minute. You mean I can have the cash flow like I wanted from a rental property, but I don't have to deal with the house, the tenants, toilets, any of that? Sign me up.
And it is that realization. And you said, something you said a minute ago, you love niche, whatever, however people say it, right? Tomato,
Mm-hmm.
want to say it, tomato.
Yep.
And that's kind of what this is, because a lot of people aren't familiar with it. And, you look at the steps, the process you can go through with a brick and mortar house, right? You can get it under contract and wholesale it, right? Be a wholesaler. You can move from that level to fix and flip. And, so those are both, one-time income. You see the HGTV guys saying, well, when I close this one, I'll make $50,000 and time to go look for another house to flip.
Yeah.
And then the next progression is, rental or passive cash flow. And when you get that, the only way you can get that in a regular, in a house is doing a rental. But then you hear Eddie Speed talk about how you can do this and not have to worry with any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just made sense, I guess.
Oh, completely. Especially since I'm an engineer, I was able to actually put some legs to it. I pitched it to my wife, and she said, well, I'm interested. Let's look at it. So we went to a 2-day class. I think back when I joined, it was a 3-day class.
It was, yeah.
And listened to all the different teachings. And the classes are definitely worth going to. If you want to really catch the vision, attend the next 2-day class. That's immediately what you should do. I'm sure there'll be links in the description.
Yeah. NoteSchool.com/TV will take you anywhere you want to go in NoteSchool.
Perfect. But you find the next 2-day class and sign up for that 2-day class. It is worth it.
So Wayne, tell us about your first win, your first deal, your first win. Tell us about how that came to be and the whole thought process behind that and why you chose that deal and so on.
Yeah. So the first note that we got was it was a small note. Here's the thing. You always want to start, and I've ran into this with investors that are looking to invest with me. They always want to dip a toe in the water, right?
Human nature.
I don't know what it is about human nature, but you always want to try a little bit of money with something before you put a lot of money into it, just to see how it's going to work. So we started off with a small note. I think the note was, maybe a $50,000, $60,000 note, but it was to prove that the model worked. It was to learn all the steps. What's involved in buying a note, getting it boarded with a servicer, filling out that documentation, and just going through the process, just like you would a fix and flip or any house project. There's a series of steps that you have to map out and you have to learn to be able to do. But boy,
but you're using this, Wayne, and not one of these.
Yes. And once you learn the steps, it's not complicated. It's not difficult. You can do it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And
then, so you got your
first, and then you get that cash flow though, Joe.
Yeah, you get that. Start getting those checks in.
Yeah, and then you start seeing the beauty of it.
And you realize that they're yours, right? You don't have to pay tax. Well, maybe federal. It may be income taxes. I shouldn't say that, right? But
yes.
There's no property taxes. There's no insurance. There's no worry about the tenants tearing it up. There's no maintenance. It's just a check that shows up in your account every month.
Well, and Joe, sometimes you get a note and the homeowner wants to pay their loan off quick. So they start making double or triple payments. Well, that's not a bad thing.
Quadruple payments on a deal you did, right? I think the payment was $800 and they were paying $3,800 a month or something.
Yeah, they paid off $92,000 of debt in 3 years.
Yeah.
I got repaid $92,000. This was a different loan that I had bought.
Right,
I think this was my second or third loan that I bought. But they paid back a balance of $92,000 in 3 years.
So what was the big change, the big shift in you once you got that first deal under your belt, once you got it done?
Well, it's the mindset shift, because again, there's so much fear in that first one, taking that first step into a new venture. all these unknowns, right? All these questions of what's going to happen. And I've seen fear since I've been part of Note School. I've seen fear grip people to the point where they don't take action. They sit on the sideline and they can never find an asset to really take that first step with. And
Yeah.
it's sad because they end up on the sidelines, never getting involved and never experiencing what I'm getting to experience now, because I'm seasoned now. I've been investing in notes for a little while. I've got a nice portfolio going, and you start stacking. Once you start stacking, because this is like a rent house. If you have one rent house, is that going to change your life? Not really. If you have 10, will that change your life? Yes,
And
that
yeah.
starts changing your life. But the difference with the paper buying notes is now you have 10 of those, you've got the cash flow that you really are looking for.
Right. And Wayne, the things that we talk about inside of Note School, and my favorite saying is, with a note, you do the deal once, right? You do the work once,
Mm-hmm.
and you get paid for a long time. And so it is a different mindset. A friend of both of ours, Ben, he had a group of dentists invested with him and bought notes, and he managed the notes for them. And one of the things they would say, and they had invested in, they had rentals, they had they had some mutual funds, and the funny part was they'd call him and say, "Well, how's our investment doing? How's our investment doing?" And he would just basically say, "Well, they made the borrowers made their payment last month, and it's due again next week, and they'll pay it again this month. So there's no volatility."
Mm-hmm.
And any of that, it's just you do the deal, you do the work once, you get paid for years.
Yeah.
So Wayne, what is something that you would say to people out there that are thinking about, well, to do notes, right? To get into notes. What would you say? What kind of encouragement, any things to look out for? What would that look like?
I would say, as an encouragement, don't be afraid to get into the space and move forward and do it. So many people are so locked in to traditional ways. Like, again, I know I keep bringing up rental properties, but that's because that's the thing I see that, I guess, if you're going to say something competes in people's minds with notes, it's rental
Mm-hmm.
properties,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they think, oh, I'm going to have a hard asset. With that hard asset, I get lots of benefits. But as we've discovered, Joe, with those benefits of having a rental property, it comes with lots and lots and lots of headaches.
It
And
does.
it's even a headache when you decide that I need to liquidate that asset, right?
Mhm.
Because if you've depreciated the house, well, there's such a thing as recapture. And if you don't know what recapture is, look it up, because that means all that depreciation
Whatever
gets
the
taken back.
IRS giveth, they also taketh away later. So there you go.
Oh, and by the way, the gurus don't tell you that when you're first getting into rental properties. They don't talk about that. They
Yeah.
talk about 1031 exchange, which,
Yeah.
if you've decided that you're done with rentals and you want out of rentals, the 1031 exchange is not going to help you. That's just keeping you in. So I would say, again, going back to what you originally asked, don't be afraid to get in the game. Take that first step. And the great thing about being part of Note School is you are a part of a community,
Mhm.
so you're not alone. You're not trying to figure any of this out alone. Note School's greatest strength is its community. And you show up to the community events such as Summer Summit, Note Expo, which is coming up. That's where you get to meet the community and you really start figuring out what you've become a part of.
That's true.
And that's what makes all the difference when it comes to doing this.
It does. It's being around like-minded people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like-minded people that have the same goals, the same morals, the same all of those things. So, Wayne, tell us, you joined, and then you joined the Note School, the mentorship program. Tell us a little bit about, what do you get out of that?
Well, so the mentorship program it's that one-on-one training. We have the weekly deal labs where you can bring a deal that you're working on. So it's not just, I want to buy a note. Maybe you're a creative type. Maybe
Mhm.
you are someone who fix and flips houses, but Instead of selling it on the MLS, you figured out that a better way to build long-term wealth is to carry a note.
Exactly.
Well, you don't have to figure that out on your own. You can actually bring it to a deal lab and we will work through the numbers on what's the best way to do the acquisition.
Yeah.
What's the best way to do the disposition? So you're not just trying to figure that out on your own. And the same thing with non-performing notes. If you have a loan, either you buy a non-performing note on purpose, just like you would buy a junky house to fix and flip it.
Right. Same
You can
thing.
buy a non-performing note, or you could have a performing note that something goes wrong and they get in a little bit of trouble and you're just trying to figure out what to do. The first time that happens, it's a little unnerving because you're not sure. But then once you are coached through those situations, you realize, oh, it's not such a big deal. And actually, life happens to people just like it would if you were a tenant, right? If you have tenants, you're going to have an issue with the tenant at some point.
Right.
But the idea is to see if you can help them and help them get back on their feet,
Right.
not to be the person that's just going to rug pull them and try to kick them out of their house as soon as possible. If you work with them, a lot of people are really good about working with you and getting back and get caught up.
You do the best you can for everybody out there, and you help the folks that really want help. That's it.
And I've had that happen, Joe. I've had people.
I know.
I had a house where they had a medical issue and they got behind 8 months. And some people may say, "Oh, that's terrible," but it was okay because I was able to work with them, and over the course of 2 or 3 months, they were able to get themselves caught back up. And it's because I worked with them. I didn't hammer on them.
That's right. And, you're working through, people that have been with us, that watch a lot, that we have servicing companies. It's just like a bank. They take care of the loans and talking to the borrowers. And that doesn't mean you can't talk to them as well. But again, everybody has a little bit of a, challenge at times, and being able to work through and help folks is a big thing. So Wayne, we always end up with this. Tell us about your why.
My why is to build a better future, a better tomorrow than I have today. I truly believe that your tomorrow is built upon your actions today. If you don't take actions today, tomorrow's never going to be any better. It's going to be the exact same. And I've realized that through my own life of keeping things the same and just doing the same. And I'd look up in 5 years and I was in the same spot I was the previous 5. I don't want to be there. I'm getting older in life. I'm seeing a spot where retirement is a reality in the future. And by the way, Joe, I don't truly believe in retirement as far as sitting on a rocking chair and doing nothing. Why would you do that? And with notes, I don't have to. I can stay engaged and I can do things all the way until my mind's mush, which is what I plan to do. But that is my why, is to build a better future for my family. I have a young son.
Yes, you do.
And it gives me the opportunity to teach him there's a better way. When I was a kid growing up, we were all taught, hey, you go to college, you get a good education, go get you that W-2 job and work at it for your entire life. But what happened is things changed. The world changed.
The world changed.
That's not practical to do anymore.
And maybe you work for the same hospital corporation for 25 years. And then at some point in time, they go, see ya.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't care about the loyalty. They made a business decision and they decided to move on.
That's it.
So with notes, you can be independent. You can build your own bank. You can be truly independent. And I think that's the best way to live. But I'm really looking for, as far as a why, to leave that legacy for my son, so that he grows up. He's 13 now, so he's growing up fast. But
yep.
I want him to have a legacy to fall back on. And I've even told him, if you grow up under my parenting and you end up not being successful and as an adult, don't come to me. I'm going to give you all the tools I can give you, and you've got to go forth and be profitable as an adult. But Robert Kiyosaki, right? I love Robert Kiyosaki. I love Cash Flow Quadrant. That was a book that really kind of opened my eyes to what it meant to be a W-2 employee versus a true investor. And we even got that cash flow board game that Robert Kiyosaki makes, and we've played that with my son. And so, you've got the rat race, which was what I was stuck in, and then you have the investor. You graduate to an investor, and it was kind of cool to walk my son through that process and say, rat race is where daddy used to be and mommy is. But investor is
push that too far with mommy, by the
way. No, she knows she's in the rat race.
I know,
and she's okay with that.
That's right.
She's got her exit timed out into the future, and she's like, your job is to get me retired. So I have my mission statement. It's to build up enough where she can retire, and then she can do something else, because she's got other things that she wants to do too.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wayne, great story. Thank you so much for sharing. Wayne also works with NoteSchool as well as his investing, because he wanted to just basically dive in. And Wayne and I do a lot of the all of the NoteSchool deal labs together, along with Eddie. Right. And it's a lot of fun. We get to meet a lot of great people. So Wayne, you're an inspiration, and we certainly appreciate you. So we will wrap it up. So that is episode 257. Thanks so much for being with us. We look forward to seeing you next week, same place, same time. NoteSchool.com/TV. Again, NoteSchool.com/TV. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much. Have a great week.